So, after giving the officers some snacks and such, they filled up our transport van, and they brought us over into a holding area. I want to say somewhere around the entrance of the Tunnel to Canada. We were brought into this kind of, again, looked like the tunnel area, and unloaded from the van, and they had us stand up in a single file line next to a big bus. People that had been arrested prior to us were being brought up onto this bus, and they were being ticketed and being let go. And so we thought at this point, we're like, oh, we're just going to get a ticket, no big deal. We can stand here for a little bit of time and we'll go. At that point in time, we had, been chit-chatting a little bit with a handful of the other arrestees and got to know them, and we're speaking our stories and our experiences of the night. And in passing, I'd asked a couple of the officers, hey, just perchance, could you check that van? I know at this point I've been able to check through our backpack and realize that our wallet's not here. Can you please go check the backpack for my partner's wallet, or the van for my partner's wallet? It's no longer in here. And they ignored us. They didn't respond to us asking anything like that at all. And so at that point, we've just kind of given up. Then one of the officers that came over, and he was talking with us a little bit because he had seen us struggling with the backpack to try to get it closed. And he had stopped for a moment. He's like, I know you guys. I recognize you. And he was one of the officers that we had put ourselves in between the other protesters and the cops. We put ourselves in between them to kind of keep distance and maintain peace. He's one of the officers that we had thanked earlier in the night, and he had remembered us. And he then took the time to go back to see if he could find the wallet in the van. I wish I would have remembered his name. He was the only person the whole entire evening that was any kind of decent. We had met a couple different people, like I had said, waiting. There was one person in particular, his name is Trayvon. He had been pepper sprayed immensely. It was kind of like shoulder to lean on. We were all kind of being there for each other and supporting each other. If you needed your face itched, sure, use my shoulder. You needed your hair or your face, yeah, go right on ahead. I'll just do what I can do with my hands behind my back. And so, like I said, we had noticed that, people were just getting ticketed and leaving, so the energy had kind of, everybody had relaxed a little bit. We were kind of like, okay, this is almost over. Well, next thing you know, they had decided that they weren't going to be letting people go anymore because they were saying that people were just going back to the riot. So we were now in this new group of people that was actually going to get processed and arrested. They had put us on this transport van at this point, and they were bringing in more and more people to where they made the few of us girls that were together. No, we got ticketed first. No, I don't want to start it over. Should I just start it over?
No.
Okay. I'm sorry. They had brought us into the police station and they had ticketed us. They had given, at this point in time, my boyfriend a hard time because his license was gone. Because, again, his wallet was gone. And we thought, again, we were just going to get ticketed and then be done with. So they brought us back on the bus, and we were told by the bus driver that we were going to get brought to a different location and then get let go because, again, the people that were picked up and arrested were getting just going back to the protest and causing more problems. So the handful of us girls that were on the bus got moved off, and we were put into smaller, like, little paddy wagons, and with no lights, no ventilation, no nothing. We were drenched in sweat by the time we got to our location, and we weren't able to see out the windows or anything. We were driven to I later found out, the Detroit Detention Center, DDC. My partner was also put into one of these paddy wagon vans, and I did not realize he was at the same location as I was until we got there. They had brought us into like a barbed wire fenced-in area and basically left it to where anybody who had ID was to line up against the wall, and anybody who did not have ID was to go inside and get fingerprinted. I had my ID on me still, thankfully, because the officer that arrested me had put it in my pocket. So my boyfriend was one of the people that had to go. My partner was one of the people that had to go inside. At that point in time, we were left outside. We weren't able to move. We weren't able to bend. We weren't able to bring our hands up to our faces. They did unhandcuff us, but we were not able to move away from that wall for probably about 2.5 hours. They kept, the officer that was outside with us kept saying that we were going to have to pay fines if we had warrants, get ready to be arrested. We're not going home. They're doing whatever they can to screw us. We're all going to be in trouble. The city's going to be making, at least $2 million off of all of us tonight. I mean, they talked so much. And I mean, any derogatory thing they could make, comment they could make, they pointed out the fact that, your face is really going to hurt in the morning, and just horrible remarks. And after a little bit of time went by, they had brought up another bus load of people, 50 plus people. And we're standing there, I want to say there's about 8 of us that were outside. We're standing there, and we're watching these people get off this bus and walk right out of the parking lot of the DDC. So we start asking questions like, why are we still being held if you're bringing over more buses and vans full of people and they're able to leave? Something's not right. Because we're hearing them talk about how everybody got disorderly conduct charges. So it turned out, after a little bit more time had passed, the handful of us that were lined up against the wall, they were letting us go a couple at a time once it got to be about 2:30 in the morning. So I was able to get out. There wasn't any sort of a bond that I had to pay, even though I was threatened over and over again that I was going to have to pay money before I walked out of that building. My bond slip says 0, nothing. I was able to get out. One of their big complaints was, well, they rounded us all up because we're out past curfew, but then when they all cut us loose between the hours of, 1 and 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, there's no curfew. You just have to walk on out of here. There was no concern for anybody trying to get home any sort of safe or walking around, the streets of this area during a curfew that they were so worried about enforcing earlier. Unfortunately, I was able to leave, but my partner was not. He was detained because of not having an ID, ironically enough, because of the police losing his wallet. So one of my first things I did once I was able to get to a safe place was I called to try to get information on them. I was hit with, that person's not here. That person hasn't been here all night. And I told him, I said, I physically watched him walk in with my own eyes. Yes, he's there. Well, he's not here. He's not here. Every single time I called, and I called up there every half hour to every hour until 6 o'clock in the morning. And every time I called, even at this point, he's calling me. They're telling me he's not there. Come to find out, they misspelled his last name by 1 letter. And even though I was spelling his last name correctly, they wouldn't make the connection that they had spelled his name wrong on their paperwork. Now, my partner had mentioned, I don't know how many times over until he was blue in the face, that his name was spelt wrong on his band, on his paperwork, everything. He had pointed it out numerous times over that his name was spelt wrong, and they didn't do anything to fix it. My partner, also, he had been detained at DDC. He first was put into a holding cell that was filthy. There's used masks all over, used gloves all over, half-eaten food. And I mean, we're still doing a pandemic. Everybody was still wearing masks. They were making people mask up before they even brought him into DDC, but he was left in this filthy hole. And then, not even to mention, too, in handcuffs for 7.5 hours of time, so tight that he still, to this day, has no feeling in parts of his hands and numbness in his fingers. And, I mean, he cooks for a living. Basically, he ended up calling me over the jail phone and, confirming that he was there. Once I called and told him that I had heard from him that, yes, he is there, all of a sudden now, yes, he's here, and he has a $500 bail. I didn't know how I was going to get $500 to bail him out. Next thing you know, I get another call from him saying that his bail is only $100. So we were able to get him out at about 11 o'clock the next day. That would have been May 30th, because all of this took place on the very first night of the protests. That'll be May 29th. And now we are looking at court dates and such stuff that goes along with that. I did end up having to go to urgent care. I didn't go that day. I went the day after. I had a fracture on my orbital socket as well as a broken nose. I have to go see a ear, nose, and throat specialist for my nose. My nasal cavity's caved in. And unfortunately, my partner hasn't gone and gotten any sort of medical attention yet. That's on our next things to do list here. But that was my experience at the first night of the protest in Detroit.